Hello, in this video I will talk about the Pygmalion effect in the end and also give some tips and advices on how to implement it better in life so you will have a nicer environment, nicer friends, and be nicer yourself.
Before we get to the message of this video, I want to start with an anecdote. Let me talk about Norwegian prisons. In October 2015, a delegation of senior officials from the North Dakota prison system visited Norway and its prisons. North Dakota is a conservative US state with 8 times as many inmates per 100,000 inhabitants as Norway. The prisons in North Dakota? Long corridors, bars, strict guards. They expected something similar in Norway. In retrospect, they claim they were arrogant to assume they would find something like IKEA prisons. The prisons in Norway are, you have to realize, different. Let's take Halden. Halden is an ordinary prison, located 100 kilometers from Oslo. It is a place of forests, hills, and footpaths. The inmates each have their own room, which has underfloor heating, a flat-screen TV, and a bathroom. The only thing reminiscent of a prison is a high wall that runs around the entire resort. Even the guards have no weapons or handcuffs. Even though it may appear to have been built for young rich people which did simple crimes, it is a prison for serious criminals. But what you might not believe, it works. The recidivism rate is 16% compared to 60% in the USA. And it is even cheaper for the state. Even if the stay is more expensive, a lot of tax money is saved afterwards. So it is simply more humane, better, and cheaper. But what is the real secret? Not the facilities or the park, but the way the people were treated. There is a saying in German, you reap what you sow, which means treat other people as you would like to be treated. If you treat people in Halden like people, you will also dismiss people. If you treat them like they do in the USA, like monsters, it is no wonder that they end up back on the criminal path. So let's talk about what is happening in the USA and what differs in Norway. The broken window theory has prevailed in the USA since the 1980s. James Wilson and his colleague George Kelling believe that a dilapidated neighborhood paves the way for serious crimes such as murder. This led to the radical zero-tolerance policy in New York in the 90s. Even misdemeanors were heavily punished, which led to more arrests. Nowadays, it has been found that the broken window theory is true for simple, disorderly behaviors, but the more immoral it becomes, the less true it is. But why was the broken window theory so successful if it wasn't true? Why didn't the two social scientists do more research? For one thing, they didn't actually conduct any real, direct experiments. They referred to an experiment conducted by Philip Zimbardo in 1969, in which an abandoned car was parked in an upmarked neighborhood and shortly afterwards was further demolished by passers-by. The decisive factor, however, is that all three did not want to investigate any further. Especially at the time of Zimbardo, the prevailing theory concerning the nature of mankind was the facade theory, a theory that claimed that only a thin layer of civilization prevented man from becoming wild. In plain language, men were thought to be inherently evil. They had to be controlled so that they didn't do anything stupid. This idea began with hobbies and lasted until the year 2000. Only now are the first scientists daring to claim that humans are actually basically good. And that is the difference in how Norway treats prisoners. Norwegian prisons believe that people are good and that if they are treated humanely, they will also behave humanely. As already mentioned, it works. To get to the part that will help you, what can you do to utilize this? Everything I have described so far is the pygmalion effect. On the case of the USA, the counterexample, the golem effect. You can compare these two with the placebo and nocebo effect, except that you don't have a positive or negative perception on yourself, but on others. The pygmalion effect thus describes how others react positively to one's own positive signals. To summarize, be nice and people will be nice to you.
Now, there are a few tips on how to implement this in everyday life. So, first, when in doubt, assume the good. So, if you have been cheated or fooled by a person, don't just blame the whole group this person belongs to. So, you should also trust yourself, and honestly, if you have never been fooled in life, do you have enough self-confidence and trust people in general? Second, think in win-win scenarios. You don't always have to get the maximum profit out of a deal, and often the other party doesn't try that either. Think not only what is in for you, but also what is in for the other person. And third, last but not least, tame your empathy and train your compassion. Empathy is the ability to feel what other people feel, and this often doesn't help. It's if a friend is feeling bad and you show empathy, you will of course also feel bad, and the end that won't help anyone. Instead, show compassion and be there for the person if they need help. They will thank you for it. After implementing these tactics, you will soon see that your friends and your closer environment gets friendlier to you as well, and therefore you will have a better life quality.